and it's my pleasure to be here this afternoon to learn and discuss and exchange ideas with you, a lot of senior scholars in your field. And we have heard a lot this morning, and I'm going to grab your attention a little bit and divert you a little bit to public engagement, the actual citizen behavior on the internet engaging for policy purpose. So the motivation of this paper, okay, is actually this kind of, to me, it's a very exciting trend called this wisdom of the cloud sourcing. How many of you heard about this term, crowdsourcing, wisdom of the crowd? Okay, so I guess it's not totally common sense, so I will explain a little bit of what is it. Well, if I talk about YouTube, then you say, yeah, I know that. If I talk about Facebook, you say, yeah, I heard about that. And those are private sector that have been using technology to allowing user-generate content. And also, there are also a lot of private firms, for instance, Innocentive. They're using this competition platform to allow general public to actually compete, submitting proposal to actually solve very technical problems. And me myself study an NGO organization that launched a competition challenge called Changemaker, funded by actually a foundation, calling for proposal to resolve social issues, social problems, and they're actually raised a lot of attention and it's been seen as a very successful platform. And guess what? When the private's doing it, when the civil society is doing it, the government's going to do it. So in about 2009, there's this open government initiative. It's really about engaging the public to solve or be part of the public policy process. To actually ask them about what do you think about your concern about certain policies? Could you contribute your thoughts, your knowledge, your share with your concern, etc. And this whole movement in the private has been captured by Swarovski. Actually, he created this term, wisdom of the crowd. They realized, guess the public, when they get together and when you have a well-designed platform, allow decentralization, allow people have share diverse view, etc., several conditions, that you can actually generate quality of outcome. The quality of the outcome will be higher than the people, the outcome that generated by a few. So the wisdom of crowds, is actually a praise for engaging the public to contribute, come together to jointly protect, collective action, come up with some good results. And however, while people are very excited and the private and NGOs, foundation, the government are adopting this model. Right, the government is adopting competition model to engage the citizen as well. Later on, I'll give you actually a very specific case, and I'll talk about more how do they do it. There's a group of scholars have concern. Is that, for instance, Wikipedia, even the co-founder have found that there's only Wikipedia, I'll give you a little background. Just yesterday I saw the news that online Wikipedia version, sustained. However, the printed version of encyclopedia just announced yesterday they're going to stop printing the actual encyclopedia, for good. They're going to only keep the online version. So it just shows you how the impact of this crowdsourcing, on the generating knowledge. And however, there are people since 2005 worry, who are the people who create this knowledge? Is it really the crowd? Well, they found that only 2.5% of the registered user actually contribute about 50% of the edits. Actually, they are the majority are contributed by the small percent of people, of the few people, rather than what we think is all about the crowd, right? And the other, just 2011, just last year, bunch of biologists, this is published on the biology letter, that found that, really, is there a wisdom of the crowd? Look at the group decision. So here on the other column where you see that given different conditions, whether the initial guess, basically this is an experiment of having a group of people guessing how many, I think it was little balls inside of jars, right? So basically, there's no way just by looking at it, you know how many, how many balls inside a jar. So you actually rely on the group, other information to help you make that decision. Guessing is 200, balls inside a jar or 300, etc. But as you can see that when the beginning actually the information that are closer to the true answer. Here is a 0. This is close to answer. With the cloud, as the group get increased, it was actually is actually getting better. Earlier guesses no, so that means basically here shows that when you have a better information at the beginning, the group actually tend to make a better decision, closer to zero, meaning their guess is closer to the true value. Whereas here you see, they're actually further away. If the initial knowledge, the initial information given to the group is not correct, they tend to be diverse away. So you do start wondering, is it really the crowd, or is the initial of the few, the initial information that will alter the result of the collective action of the crowd? So, well, this debate's been going on in computer science and media study, or even biology that I just found recently. That when I look back at literature in political science, well, guess what? That's not a new debate. In political science, we always debate about representative issue, right? When we talk about public engagement, who are the people? How are the voices get heard by the government? And how representative through this channel or through this group of people that actually represent the true public opinions. So there has been a long debate between this elite versus the crowd. And then it's just that now the elite might be a new emerging elite, that the other people tend to be a younger generation, perhaps some even find us more educated, and they have the resource to access on the internet, etc. So this elite in the political science literature always have this tendency to maintain the status quo. Right? They don't want to just give away, their statuses. The elite, the knowledgeable, the person's voice should be valued more by the government or by the administrator. Whereas you do have now this, general belief of, wow, we have this technology allow easy access, to the public. So you do have this wisdom of crowd belief in the literature. So, how do we actually make sense of, understand the rules of elite and the crowd in a modern Web 2.0 environment? So this is not really a new debate, in the political science, who represent the public, right? But we are facing in an environment that's slightly different. It's not, those elite are not being selected by the government, supposedly, right? They're not supposed to be selected because when we do a public consultation, you're supposed to listen to the public, right? You're not supposed to have set pre-selection of who's actually get to speak, etc. So you are in an environment where there's less rules, less governance mechanism that you can control the crowd. So how do we make sense of this? And then I turn to the Ostrom's literature that would, particularly, I'm a public administration scholar, so I'm kind of looking at this side of literature, understanding the online community as a common. And in fact, again, this is not new again, and this theory has been there for a long time, but it's just in the past about 10 or 12, 15 years that has been used to understand the knowledge common on the internet, understand the common, understand online community as common, and mainly because the online community actually fit pretty well of the property of the common. It has open access, right? Knowledge common and social, allowing knowledge to be accumulated, and also allowing social interaction. And also is the outcome of this online community, whether it's for private, public, NGO, that it actually generates some sort of pure public goods. When people use it or download, you do not exclude other people from using and understand or gain this knowledge. So. And the good thing about well, not good thing, actually, because of my disciplinary training, so, we use this theory. Another reason, motivation for adopting this theory, there are actually a lot of ways to actually understanding common or elite and cloud struggle. And another reason why I choose this, because from the public administrative scholar or practitioner perspective, we want to understand how do we govern, right? How do we manage this online community? How do we will launch a public consultation meeting, or when we launch a public consultation platform, when we actually getting all those information, how do we manage them? How do we select information? Whose voice should we hear or put more value? Who should we manage or should we reply, etc.? So from a public administrative perspective, that you want to manage and governing this online. So that's why this particular framework is it's useful for us to further understand. In particularly, they actually provide a set of rules to understand from different perspectives of this community. And I'm going to skip, I'm not going to talk about each one of the rules specifically, but you talk about, about inclusion, who should be included, about position, who has a certain position to make certain decision, how information is being aggregated, etc. So it's not telling you what rule should be included or excluded, but then it gives you a framework to understand how do you conceptualize an online community. And one more thing I want to add into it, perhaps more important than this long laundry list, is that its major contribution is not just about understand formal rules. So this is not just about understand the policy that's setting on the internet, but rather it also focuses on informal interaction, the norm, the belief, the reputation get generated online, and then how do we actually understand that. So I try to follow more. I study the policy, the formal policy, how do they set up regulation for each of the online platform. But I also try to focus on some of the informal interaction. How is elite formed? Well, elite has been defined as, there's fewer of them, and then they were endowed with power through rules or emerged through their reputation, and they're in a position to lead or influence the direction of online discussion. So this is sort of the literature definition of elite, and then the crowd is that they're the majority of the people that not necessarily have power to influence as an individual, but aggregately, they might have power to influence the outcome. Okay, so the methodology of looking at how do we make sense of this trend of public engagement, online public engagement. I use the following method. I actually collect so far about 40, 60 cases, but the number of cases just being exponential growth. When I started in 2006, there were few cases, really hard to find. But now, because a lot of government initiatives, not just like hundreds of the cases, but today I select 2 best cases that as an empirical study to show by using social network analysis and trend analysis to reveal this tension between the elite and the crowd. So the first case is this open government initiative. I choose these 2 cases that both sort of the beginning of a big initiative of opening government. And then this open government initiative, actually, I'm only using just one platform, but later on they have, basically it's a policy that affects the entire federal government. And we have actually experts here that can talk about more. But they focus on 3 things: transparency, participation, and collaborations, basically making all the government data, whether your education, National Archive, and all those organizations, to make those data available to the public through internet. And second is they want each federal government to think about, come up with an action plan to incorporate public's opinions about how can you improve the transparency or the data usage of the government, as well as other policy consultation. And then finally, collaboration. And it's actually engage the citizen to work together through those interactive technology. And I'll give you a case that actually use collaboration. So I look at particular one of the policy that actually they set up a platform to actually engage the citizens for participation, online participation. And this is a policy that was this actually open government dialogue took place before the actual initiative happened. And this dialogue actually was an online platform, and it has, let me see if I have it has the following 5 policy areas: transparency, participation, collaboration, capacity building, and legal policy challenges. They actually ask the citizen, please submit your idea under each of this topic, and they allow the voter to actually vote which idea is good, which idea is no good, can vote good or bad, and allow user to not just contribute ideas as well, actually make them common. So as you can see on the side there, where you can see those are each ideas, and under each idea you can see the common. So everything is transparent. The differences between this online, you say, well, we run consultation meeting too. We know our government do consultation, but the major difference is that it's when you put it in online, everything is transparent, right? So you can actually see whose ideas and how each idea being received by the public, etc. Okay, and this has been seen as a very successful initiative. Phase 1, generate 4,000 something ideas within 2 weeks, or within, actually later on I discovered it was actually about 2 months of time. Oh, already, okay, I need to faster. All right, so basically it's well-received cases, and then. So those are just, the second case is the Future Melbourne case, where you actually see a lot of, this case is slightly different than the previous one, you're just submitting an idea. This case actually is city strategic plan. So it's actually put in a Wikipedia format, basically, allowing people, citizens, to actually edit. Again, it has 5 policy area, and I'll just show you what does that mean. So you can actually, when you click on it, you say, well, I want to edit this policy plan. You can see the history, you can see who has actually contributed and what they have actually added. So you can see how citizens together added a city strategic plan that focus on people, creativity, transportation, technology, or actually other environmental related issue. So here's the overview of the data. Later on, if you're interested, I can explain why the number is slightly different, because we actually crawl those data from this website. We didn't ask them to send a request, but we actually crawl this data online. And here's the results. Okay. So the first one is the Open Government Dialogue website, where we see constructed into a network, because we want to know who are the core actors, who are the elite, right? And as I here highlighted, is those people in the middle who have contributed more of the time. They're sort of governing this website. And then I'm going to take a look at how they behave differently from the crowd. So here, just quickly, this is a timeline, and then you see this is the distribution of the contribution through time. And as you can see, the red line is the elite. And as you can see that they are, again, they're smaller percentage of the population, but they actually contribute much more in a relatively percentage. In this particular case, it accounts for 80% of contribution for this online discussion forum. And here I highlight another thing is that those elite actually start the growth of this big discussion. You know, the elite actually contribute more first. So they sort of push this big growth, you know, first. And then here again, when you see, here again you see that when I look at them based on their reputation, based on their scores, rather than the network position, now you also again to see that the people have more reputable, being recognized as a higher contributor, or they're being common more, discussed more. Again, those are the people took up first. Okay, so I'm going to skip those discussions that we can talk about. Here it's just actually showing the distribution of the type of topic that you see. As you go from the bottom percentage, those are the crowd, and then you go to the top percentage, you see become more homogeneous, right? The idea contribution become more homogeneous, okay? And again, this is a future Melbourne. You see this sort of hierarchy structure again. You have the middle, center, and the crowd. And here, we do not see sort of this first move, characteristic of the elite people. But you do see, interestingly, you do see this second peak of the elite. And when I take a look at the, do a qualitative analysis of the text, you start seeing this government official. This is actually the second part is the government official versus non-government official. That those government official, this little second peak, is actually they're responding to the citizens' comments. Okay, so when you start see this is actually a citizen make a comment, the government official immediately follow with some feedback and additional information. Okay, so discussion. What do we find? Elite and the cloud and how they behave differently. And elite, we do find in the open government dialogue community, we find that they are sort of first mover, opinion leaders. And in the future Melbourne community, that we do find that actually the people who are elite, the people who are in the core position, that also happen to be the government officials of the city of Melbourne. And also for the crowd, what is the purpose of the crowd then? They sort of provide this legitimacy, support, and justification for the elite's ideas and opinions. And another thing that it's sort of useful we learn is that you reveal policy preferences, right? It also tells us, well, in government dialogue, we see that people care more about transparency related issue or participation, but they less focus on collaboration or the other capacity building. And in the future Melbourne, this is even more interesting as a city, right? What do people care about city, development, infrastructure? They care about service provision, they care about transportation building, something more visible. But when you talk about culture, environment, you have less participation, less people actually contribute those ideas. So you sort of also learn what people care about in terms of policy preferences. And Another thing that I already pointed out is the information provided by the elite were more homogeneous, whereas the crowd provided more diverse information from those, actually a breakdown of their distribution of different policy category. So finally, my conclusion is that we should really rethink about this whole open government movement that I just learned actually nowadays, moving to an international direction. Well, there's so many good things, and I truly believe the value of it. But we need to really understand, be more skeptical about, really is the wisdom of the crowd was actually from the elite, still this old debates about, who actually initiated. And from this research, we do see some concern, for instance, Future Melbourne has been foreseen as a very successful public engagement program. Is to say this plan, the city plan is really by the people, right? But then, however, we do see that government official took a very strong initiative and governance of this platform, and then the other it leads to the danger of, is there an illusion of this online deliberative democracy? We talk about, it's really good that we should have online engagement, because online engagement technology really can decentralize the public policy process. But then we see otherwise, because a lot of you have the first move advantage, where we do see that people who have first move, then they become more well received. So while we have concern, it does provide new justification for the government action. It's very educational for the citizen and government to learn about public policy in the process as well. All right, I'm going to make my conclusion here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jonan, and thank you for Professor Liao to invite me to discuss an interesting paper presented by our speaker, Helen. I'm pleased to read this interesting paper, and this paper trying to attempt to assess the impact of the internet or the interactive technologies such as the Web 2 technologies upon public policy. And the point is that we understand the government need to strengthen their legitimacy, so they need to incorporate the public opinions or their public consultation when initiating public policy. So I think this is a good attempt for the author try to see how the new technology could be incorporated into the public policy process. And she also incorporated two case studies, one from the US, the so-called Open Government Initiative, and the other one from the Australian Future Melbourne 2020 project. I think this is in general, this is a good paper, a good attempt to see how the new technology has been a positive role in the government initiative. And I think the author also provide us with the detailed discussions, particularly the relevant literature on online communities, with special references to the crowd, the elites, social structure of online community. I think this is a good point. And the author also had a good attempt to assess the internet, whether the internet has facilitated the social and political engagement online, and so as to strengthen their legitimacy in terms of public policy. But I would like to raise some of the concerns. Maybe it is a suggestion, or maybe it is a response to what I have read before coming to the workshop. Again, particularly from the Future Melbourne case, we understand, as you also point out in your discussion, the elites usually, particularly, was composed mostly by the government officials or members. So it means that the government has much more voices rather than the general crowd or the general public. So the point is that how can we, justify that? Since most of the contribution made online are from government officials or their members, how can they sustain? How can they strengthen or consolidate their legitimacy in terms of public policy? So again, this is a sort of a question that probably you need to justify, or maybe it would be the questions or issues emerge from the new technologies. Also, I guess I would like to see if you could incorporate more qualitative method rather than quantitative research method only. Because if we are going to have deeper understanding of whether we can really assess the objective set from your paper, so we probably need to have sort of more either elite interview or deep interview to gauge the public opinion or any opinion from elite groups or the crowd. So survey might be another solution. But I guess one of the point is that if you could sort of assess or to do any content analysis, it would be really helpful because we can understand how you mean what you mean by the improvement of transparency. Because we understand transparency is not simply a message appear online without any intervention. But you also mentioned that some of the messages has been deleted for unknown reasons. Maybe the government or the administrator has already deleted the messages. So from this perspective, I would suggest that if there is a more systematic way to do or to conduct any content analysis, it would be really helpful for us to better understand how the transparency, how the accountability, how the collaborations, how the engagement has been improved or has been largely strengthened the government legitimacy. And last point that I would like to address is that it would be helpful if the author give us a more clear picture what are the specific issues or challenges. Because from reading the title of your paper, then I guess people might stop and wonder if you could give us a summary of the challenges and issues emerging from the new technologies. I guess this is a minor point. In general, I guess it's a good paper for us to follow and to read. Thank you so much.
We have time for a response from each of the speakers. So while the other speakers are coming back, maybe Helen would like to come first, and maybe the other speakers could come up to the front.
Those are really good questions, and I think there are three things that I have enough time to draw down, but the rest I probably have to ask you afterward. Is how do we justify the government still play a key role? And I guess I didn't make it very clear that actually the case, the future meltdown case, was actually foreseen first as it's being justified, right? It's a plan by the people because it is sort of the very first time that the city actually made their city strategic plan, available to while it's being transparent. But then, in the first time they adopt the wiki knowledge to actually allowing citizens to, instantly changing the plan. And then, so that's actually the first time. So because that, I've actually been seeing, and how they justify, they actually show you this very beautiful number that I'll show you how many times I've viewed it. Let me see very quick. They show you, right, about 30,000 pages viewed, 7,000 unique visitors, how many things. They give you all this very beautiful number. They actually did a, post-assessment evaluation of the plan. They show you all these really big numbers of how many people viewed it, how many people participate, etc. And then this plan immediately actually was going to send it to the council. And then it got passed because you say, well, hey, this is really by the people, and not just us city officials close the door, draft the plan, and then do some consultation paper in a separate location. We don't know what is actual public opinions. If you're not satisfied with this plan, go online and see how the discussion being involved, how people actually have already discussed it. So it was well received in the legislator council, so they get passed no problem. And also it got the presidential award. So now, you know, Australia was really thinking about using this very successful model to other cities. And that's how I actually draw my attention to study this point. I'll study the good things about it, right? Write it as a best practice. And when I actually revealed, or I started download the data, that's when I actually discovered that, you know, the core people, and then I tried to understand who are the core, who are the periphery people, and then I discovered that, you know, they are government. So I guess it was well justified. In a way, you can say that they hide it well, you know, or in another way, it's like you can see as a positive that you allow communication, interaction between the citizen and the government official. So there's nothing wrong. The government still play the lead role, but you allow that interaction with the citizen, and you can actually see it because it's transparent. So I just want to make that point a little bit clear. And then I think the qualitative suggestions are excellent, and I definitely do that. And I guess the challenging and the issue in the paper, I wasn't make it very clear, but then I want to restate it's about this tension between elite and I guess elite problem of all this network I've seen. Actually, this is just 2 of them. I have 6 or 7 of them that I see that you just can't actually walk away with no elite. You always have somebody govern. And the question is, who are them, and how do we actually weigh their opinions? I think it's very careful. And again, I guess that turned into a technology of how can we, fairly actually incorporate this information into a public policy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for Dr. Yang's very kind and valuable comments and suggestions. Indeed, I think the research results may be contingent on the subject and substantively surveyed. So it's very important for us to clearly identify the characteristics and attributes of the respondents. I think probably we still have a room for improvement for our studies. So basically, I think probably there's 2 ways to improve our studies in the future. First of all, is we can expand our sample size to improve the representation and to identify the more attributes of the respondents. The second way, I think probably is we can it's quite similarly. We can also identify the key attributes in our samples, such as genders, ages, regions, and the rank of the civil servant, to understand the effects of these attributes on the user's attitude or then online satisfactions. Probably, I think that's the basic methods, I think, in the preliminary findings and can improve our study. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Tsai. Your comments are very valuable, and actually, especially the first one, you say that we have to clarify the linkage between the transparency and our office rent. And this is a very legitimate suggestion. I haven't thought about the transparency between the parliamentary system and the presidential system, and you pointed out that the parliamentary system usually is more transparent than the presidential system. So we may look at it and maybe change our language a little bit, and also the data part we may add maybe a dummy variable to indicate that. That's a very good suggestion. And the second one is about the retrospective of the voters' point of view. I mean, yeah, people try to, when people vote, you always think that they are going to look at the track record of the candidate and other things. And it's kind of a mixed views in the literature. Some people may do that, and some people may not. And especially when you are in some political groups, and they are going to provide a track record for you, and it's much more convenient for you to get the history of the candidate. And for example, in the United States, the National Rifle Association, because the members of the association, they care about because they are gun owners, so they care about the gun owner laws or something like that. So the association provides all the track record, the voting record in the Congress, in the Senate, or or in their public officials' career, and what's their point of view about the gun owners. So, and that significantly lower the cost for the voters to gather the information for yourself. So maybe we will think about that and try to dig deeper in the literature and see what should we do about this, because currently our motto is just say the voters are all nearsighted. So yeah, we have to look into it. And the third one is stability of the index of stability of the government. Yeah, that's the one we just get it from. I think it's it's a World Bank or some institution. They create an index for this kind of government stability. And this is our bad that we don't explain too much. I think we have to apologize to Professor Tsai that we didn't do a very good job for this index. We have to do a better job to explain it. Thank you very much.
Given the time, shall we just go straight to coffee?
Yeah. It's a break.
Thank you for all our speakers. It's been really interesting.